Hello and welcome to my channel. Have you ever asked yourself, how do you manage a stage or a phase of a project in a project environment? Don't look elsewhere. In this video, I'm going to take you through step by step on all that you need to manage a stage or a phase in a project environment. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified program and project manager. This is the channel which I use to help aspiring and also practicing project managers to succeed. So in this video, I'm going to take you through step by step on all that you need for you to manage a stage in a project environment or a phase in a project environment. So let's dive in. So let us start by understanding what is a stage in a project environment. So in a project environment, there are a number of controls that you can introduce. These controls, they also help you to manage the project all the way from the beginning up to the end. So one of the basic controls that you normally find in most projects in any industry or any type of project is a stage. Some they want to call it a phase. It means the same thing. So I'm going to be using these two phrases or words interchangeably, a stage and a phase, but I'll be referring to the same thing. So what is a phase in a project environment? A phase in a project environment is a set of activities that can be performed either in parallel or they can be performed step by step in order to achieve a specific goal of the stage. And normally a stage has got a time bound, which means it has a starting period and an end period. Within the stage, this is where the focus of a project manager is very, very important. And that is the purpose why I created this video. So that if you're a project manager, you know this is the phase that you have to control. You know this is the phase that is very important for the success of your project. So now, after understanding what is a stage, a set of activities that you have to perform in parallel or one step after the other within a specific time bound, how do we manage that? I can tell you from my experience, managing a stage is the responsibility of the project manager. And this video is specifically for the project manager or anyone who is aspiring to be a project manager. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you find this video very helpful and you are also new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button so that you're the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So why is it very important that you have a stage or blocks or phases in a project journey? Mainly it's for control. So the first thing that you have to do if you want to manage a stage or a phase in a project environment, you need to plan the activities for that specific phase. What do we mean by planning? You need to start with the deliverables to be produced in that particular stage. For example, some they want to call them products. It could be a document. It could be a result. It could be even a physical product. So you need to start by listing the products that you're expecting to be produced in that particular phase of the project. You might be asking, why should I start with products? I know for some project managers who are used to the traditional way of planning, they just start by activities. I'm telling you, you should be using one of the most powerful ways of project planning, which I normally use in my projects, which is product-based project planning. So you could be asking, what is this all about? I have a video on product-based project planning. It's a very powerful tool. You start with what you want to produce, and then you start putting activities to produce that. The advantage of doing that is you won't miss some things that you're supposed to produce. I've seen some project managers asking the team members, was this done? And then they're being told, no, it wasn't done. So it is because they started with the traditional way of planning, which is activity-based instead of product. So in a stage, you need to list all the expected deliverables or products from that specific stage. Then, based on the list of those products, you can call it a product checklist, you start assigning work to different teams. Let me expand more on this. In a stage or phase of a project, you do not expect project members to just come in and then they start doing whatever they have to do for the benefit of the project. It doesn't work like that. It is the responsibility of the project manager to check the product list or checklist, and then using the product checklist, you sequence. In most cases, there are some products which can be sequenced in terms of how they're supposed to be produced. There are also others which can be run in parallel. So you must have those two categories, the sequencing and also those ones you can run in parallel. The advantage of doing that is when you're now creating what is called a work package. A work package in project management is just an instruction that you give to, as a project manager, you give to the team manager to work on specific deliverables. I'll cover that later. So the advantage of doing that is when you're creating a work package, you're also able to number the work package. You're also able to number the products that you want to produce per each and every work package. So once you have completed the product checklist, you now need to plan how they're going to be produced. There are normally 3 levels of planning. There's the higher level or the high level of planning called project plan. Then there's another one which is a bit detailed. It's called a stage plan. So the last one that you have at the bottom is team plan. So when you're controlling a stage, you must have a stage plan. And I'm telling you, in a stage, you have one plan, but you're going to have so many products and even so many team plans, depending on which project you're working on. So you can have so many stage plans feeding into the main project plan. You can also have so many team plans feeding into a stage. So a stage might have so many products to be produced probably by the same team. So obviously they'll come up with different plans to deliver those deliverables. So it is also quite important that after planning the stage, you have identified the products, you have identified the activities to be done. Now you come up with a work package list. I would advise that you should always have these numbered. Say for example, you have 10 work packages. So work package number 1, you give to this particular team. Work package number 2, you give to this particular team, and so on and so forth. So once you have given the work package, which is also linked to the products to be produced in that particular stage, it becomes easy now to assign that to a team manager. A team manager is just like a lead. Like what I normally do in my projects, each and every area, I put team leads or team managers. The advantage of doing that is normally when it comes to a stage, we are talking of specialist products, not project management products. So you need someone who is specialized in that area and who is also going to lead the team in that specific area. So you give a work package to the team manager so that they can work with their team and produce the expected deliverable or progress the expected activities of the project. So after assigning the work package to the team manager, depending on how experienced your team manager is, you might even ask them to start working on their team plan to produce the deliverables based on what has been assigned to them at that particular point in that particular stage. In some cases, if it's something that you have also expertise, you can also work with the team manager to draft the plan, which you can also present to the team members so that they become part of that plan and part of that process. So the project manager is also going to assign work package to the team manager, work with the team manager to produce a team plan. So it's like a project manager is going to have a backlog of work packages, especially if the project is very big. If it's a small project, probably you don't have a backlog. So you take each package, assigning work package, assigning to the team work package, assigning until all the packages for that stage, they are completed. So once the team plan is in place, the expected activities in managing a stage or a phase in a project environment as a project manager is now to track progress on each and every assignment that you have given to any specific team. So you are going to check in terms of the deliverables. How are you progressing to get the deliverables delivered? And also, I can assure you from my experience, it's going to be very normal that when you're running a project or a phase, you're going to encounter a lot of issues. Some of them, they might be within your control as a project manager. Some of them, they're going to be outside your control. So therefore, you have to escalate them. For example, there might be some changes required by the users of the product. And those changes might require, for example, additional budget, or even they might require even additional time. And yet that specific phase or stage, you had only budgeted a specific time. So this is going to cause it to go beyond the tolerance. So you'll be forced to escalate to project board. There are basically 3 issues that you're going to face during a stage. I'm basing on my experience, or 3 types of issues. The first one is a request for change. So what does it mean? It means there is something that was initially requested by the user, probably after seeing the product or after rethinking or even after change of business operations, they now need to change what they've requested for the project to produce. So that is going to cause you to rethink about the timelines. It's going to cause you to think about the risks, the quality, and also business case. In some cases, like what I normally request from project board is to have a change budget. So that some of those small things, you don't need to go back to the project board for you to get them actioned. No. You can make a decision as long as you're still within the approved tolerance, then you can move on. So the second category of issues you're going to face is just generic or problem or just a concern. So as a project manager, you also need to appreciate those issues, resolve some of them, manage some of them. Where it's necessary, you can even escalate to project board. That is very normal in any project environment. Then the last one is what is called off specification. So this is where a specific product is expected to have some specific measurements, but you're getting something else different. I'll give you an example. You were expecting a certain product to be yellow. It's coming as blue, as an example. If it's coming as blue, then it means you don't even need to quality check it. That item is off. That's why it's called off specification or off specs. So you have to request whoever is building or the supplier who is building that product to give you the correct color. That's one of the examples. Then another positive example is or exceeding expectation, but through off specification. You have asked for something that is 1 meter. Now you are getting 1.2 meters. If it was supposed to fit somewhere, that particular item is not going to fit. So they have over-delivered, but it will affect the progress of the project. So that is the third category. If you want to dive deeper and understanding more about project issues, I also have a video on project issues. You can also check it on my channel. It will help you to understand what are project issues, how do you resolve them, how do you manage them going forward. So the other item you're also going to face is the risk. There's always going to be a risk in every project stage. But when you are faced with a risk, you have several ways to respond to risks. If you want to understand more about responding to risks, I have a video on risk responses. You can also watch it on my channel. You will learn to appreciate how do you respond to different risks like transfer, avoid, and so on and so forth. So once you have also picked a risk, you still need to categorize it. Is it something that is a health issue? Is it environmental? Is it a political risk? Is it an economical risk or technology risk? So there are so many categories that you can use to classify a risk. If you want to appreciate and understand more about risk categorization, I also have a video on risk categorization. You can also watch it from my channel and also appreciate what is a risk category. So in a stage, you have now picked the issues, you have now managed the risks. There are normally 2 triggers of closing a stage, which you must manage as a project manager. The first trigger is everything is going normal, which means according to plan. There's no need to ask for any approval. So it means naturally the stage is completing according to plan. So that one, you create an end stage report. If you want to understand more about end stage report, I also have a video on end stage report. You can also watch it from my channel. You can also watch it from my channel and understand more. So now, once the risk is also identified, the other part that is also going to keep you active as a project manager is exception. So what does it mean? A stage can be concluded because of a problem. We use the word exception in the project management domain. We don't say it's a problem because it could be something positive. Someone might come with a good idea that can cause you to replan and rethink about the stage. So it's not always the problem. So when it comes to exception, which means you were supposed to run your phase or your project from here up to this point, maybe in between, you have discovered that there's a serious issue that is not going to make the project sustainable. So you stop at that particular point, you create what is called an exception report. You also create what is called an exception plan within the stage, which means either you want to recover the lost time or you still need to predict how long that particular stage is going to take. So those are the 2 triggers, either an exception or a normal or natural end of a project stage. So as a project manager, this is what you are going to be managing throughout. So you have now given the work package, you have now set with the team manager, you now have a team plan, you are now checking progress. There is always a time It depends on how long the stage is going to take. For example, I was in a project where we had to run it for about 2 years, and one stage was taking about 3 months. And since the project board, they'd requested that I should be updating them every month. So when you're managing a stage or phase in a project environment, you are also supposed to create what is called a highlight report, which you are supposed to update or present to the project board. They want to know, how is it progressing? Any challenges? What are the issues? What are the lessons learned? And so on and so forth. So we're going to cover the highlight reports in a few minutes to come. But it is very important for you to understand that when you're running a project, you have to reach a point where you have to create a highlight report to update all stakeholders on how the stage is going. Are you still on track? Validation of the business case. Is it still valid? Is it still sustainable to progress? I've also created for you a very comprehensive ebook on how to manage a stage or a phase in a project environment. You can find the link in the description below. It will also help you to appreciate, to further your understanding of how to manage project stages or project phases in a project environment. This will also increase your chances of making sure your project is successful. So, before we move on to the highlight report, let us summarize what we have picked or what we have discussed so far on the project stage management or project phase management. So the first point is, it is the responsibility of the project manager to manage a stage. Get it very correct. I've seen some other project managers trying to delegate to either project administrator or the project support team or to someone else within the project. Don't do that. Project manager, you're supposed to own a stage. Whatever is supposed to be done in a stage, you're supposed to own it, control it, and make sure it's very successful. So you start by planning the stage, that is from the previous stage, and then you also go on to identify the specific products. You create work packages for those products. You assign the work packages to different team managers. You can also sit with the team managers to create a team plan to deliver those particular work packages. Then you also need to follow up in terms of progress on how the team is doing in terms of the deadlines or in terms of the timelines and the cost. So once you get those updates, if there are any exceptions, you also resolve them, or you can even report them to the project board. So after each and every deliverable, you are supposed to do assessment of a number of items in a stage. One of them is to assess your tolerance. Your tolerance is just how far are you allowed, or how far have you been approved beyond a certain figure or a certain boundary. I'll give you a good example. You can be given that your maximum spend for this particular stage is, say, for example, 100,000. But the change board or the project board might say you can even go as far as 10,000, but at any given moment, you only need to spend 2,000 before you get approval. So you have a tolerance. Or you might be given, as an example, your stage is supposed to take, say, for example, 8 weeks. However, they are also acceptable if you can go up to 9 weeks. So you have a tolerance of one more week. So after each and every stage as a project manager, you need to revisit your tolerance to make sure that you are still within your tolerance and you don't need additional approval. Then the second part of it, you also need to be checking the business case. When you're managing a stage, you need to check the business case. I'll give you a good example. Assuming you are running a project or you're implementing a project to produce a certain product which you want to sell in the market. Then you have 5 stages. In stage number 3, you receive information that your competitor, probably due to new technology or due to some efficient processes in the competitor environment, they were able to already produce the product, it's already in the market and selling. So at this point in the stage, you want to visit the business case. Do you still have to continue with the product, or you have to stop the project? In some cases, a decision can be made either at board level or even at corporate management level to say, stop the project, there's no benefit for us to do this. In some cases, they might say, let's continue with the project, produce our product, then we strategize on how to market or how to get a good market position based on that product. So you need also to be checking the business case when you're managing a stage environment. You also need to check the quality methods. For example, there are mainly two ways of quality checking or quality method. There's one which is called the in-process quality check, which means you check them as they go. And also there's something called the appraisal, which means you wait for the product to be produced and then you check the quality. If you want to understand more about quality management in a project environment, I have a video on quality management. You can also check it on my channel, and then you can appreciate how do you do quality management in a project environment. So after checking your business case, you check your quality, you can also even check the benefits. There are some stages where the benefits actually is realized in that particular stage as compared to end of the project. It depends on the type of the project. So you also need to look at the benefits review. Are you going to be seeing some benefits which you can either push straight away to the corporate, or you can start using it as a benefit or not? So you also need to do that particular review in a project environment. Of course, the risk, we have spoken about it. The issues, we have also spoken about it. Then the lessons learned. Every stage, you always learn something, I can tell you. And lessons learned, you can either apply them in the current stage, if it's a bit long, or maybe you can apply them in the next stage, or sometimes you can even apply them in the next project. In some cases, you need to feed back to the corporate so that they pick those lessons and keep them as corporate lessons for any of the projects that can be done for that corporate. So it is also very important when you're managing a stage, you are also picking the lessons learned. You also need to do a review of the project team structure. I've run some projects where the team structure was varying depending on the stage. There's no need, especially if it's a costly project, there's no need to keep a team early in the project, which you know they're going to come maybe 6 or 8 months later. And there's also no need to keep a team which has just completed its activities. I can give you a good example of software. You have a team which was responsible for requirements analysis and a team which is responsible for design. Then, now we are moving on to build. The team that might be responsible for analysis might not be required. So each and every stage as a project manager, to manage it properly, always do a review of also the team structure. So as you are also giving out packages, you also review the team structure. You might be forced in some cases, like what I've seen in some of my projects, you might be forced in some cases to bring in new team. You might be forced also in some cases to drop another team, especially when they are done with their work packages. I'll give you a good example also from construction. There's no need for you to bring those who are going to be responsible for roofing when the foundation is actually not yet started or is just starting. And also, if it was a different team which was creating the foundation, there's no need to keep that team again when you're painting the building, as an example. So those are some of the simple examples just to clarify on why you should revisit the teams in a project environment, and for each and every phase and for each and every stage. That is very important for a manager to know. Team structure is always dynamic. It depends on the need, it depends on the stage and the phase of the project. It also depends on the type of the project and also the industry of the project. So take care of that. You must always review the team structure for each and every stage. So after checking quality, risky, business case, lessons learned, one of the expected activities for you to control a stage or for you to manage a stage as a project manager is towards the end of a stage, whether it's through by exception, remember we discussed that, exceptions, or through by natural ending, you have to plan the next stage. So you also need to put that as part of your process of managing a stage. You want to plan the next stage, so which means you might want to look at what products were initially planned for this phase, which ones were completed, which ones were pending. Do you have to carry over the pending ones to the next stage, or you have to extend this stage for you to complete the pending ones? And then when you're planning for the next one, you also need to consider that. Do I have to carry over any specific deliverables? Do I have to plan for them? And so on and so forth. If there are also some lessons learned, you also want to incorporate them in the next phase, for example. So that is very, very important for you when you're managing a stage in a project. Managing a stage in a project is the responsibility of the project manager, and you should be able to track progress. You should be able to report progress to the project board. You should be able to escalate any serious issues that are beyond your control. You should be able to create also an exception plan and an exception report if there's anything that is going to affect the approved tolerances that you have in that particular stage or phase of the project. That is very important. In this section of the video, I'm going to take you through what I'm calling a highlight report in a stage management process. So you want to highlight, don't make it too detailed. You want to highlight the major items or things that you have identified in that particular stage. I'll give you a good example. Assuming your project is running for 3 months, and based on your communication strategy, you're supposed to send this highlight report to the project board every month. Okay, so there are so many cases where you need to agree on the communication strategy. If you want to understand more about project communication, I have a video on how to communicate in a project. You can also watch it on my channel. It will help you to appreciate how communication is actually done in a project environment. So your project, your stage is for 3 months. Now you want to report after a month. You are not reporting for the whole stage because it's not yet complete. You are just 1/3 or 30% into the stage. But you still need to highlight to project board. Remember, project board, they own the project. As a project manager, you're running the project on their behalf, but they own the project. So you want to highlight to them the progress, okay? So the first section that you have to highlight, obviously, it has to be the period. You need to specify the period of your reporting. So it was supposed to be 3 months, that stage. Your period is from first day up to 30 days. That is 1 month. Remember my example, we are looking at you creating a highlight report after 1 month. So it has to be first day to 30 days. You might want to use weeks, first week to fourth week as an example. So there must be some period. Then you also need to capture the date of the highlight report. That is very, very important. You need to put the date. You also need to put the period. And also you need to summarize. That section is very important. You need to summarize as a project manager what has happened in the stage. Did you face any issues in the stage that you want to highlight? Did you face any specific risks that you want to highlight? Were there any quality issues that you might have faced or you might have changed? You also need to highlight, were there any corrective measures that you have taken to make sure the stage remains within the tolerances, or the stage remains also within the baselines. Project baselines are just like approved starting points of a project. It could be a baseline on a project plan, it could be on the costs, it could be on the technology, or even some assumptions, even also some constraints. If you want to understand more about project baselines, I have a video on project baselines. You can also check it on my channel. So once you have managed to summarize, and I'm telling you, you must summarize. I've seen so many project managers trying to detail a highlight report. It shouldn't be like that. In most cases, project board, they might give you 30 minutes to 1 hour. So if you create something that is too detailed, it will be very difficult for you to present that in 30 minutes or even in 1 hour. So make sure all the details, they are also summarized. So once you have summarized, you might also want to highlight. Remember, this is a highlight report. You want to highlight in terms of the work packages, how many were planned for, and then how many were completed in terms of work packages. Then every work package will have some deliverable products. Also in terms of products, how many were planned, how many were completed, how many are still pending. And then you also need to look at the quality, okay? If you change the quality, I can tell you there are certain cases where you might be forced to change the quality criteria, not to go down, but to make it a bit higher, especially as more and more information is coming within that stage. So it is also very important for you to highlight that. So when you are creating this highlight report, one of the important sections you also need to add is the stage tolerance. Get it from me. I've seen some project managers making a mistake of just looking at the project from start up to the end. They don't even normally do a proper planning for a stage, or even if they do a proper planning for a stage, they also do not consider the stage tolerance. Every stage is going to feed into the main plan or main project. So whatever the tolerance you have for the whole project, you can also segregate it into different stages of the project. Say for example, your costs, total cost of the project is 1 million, as an example. And the stage in which you are managing or running at that point, you have a limit of $200,000. So what does it mean? It means you need also to report as a highlight to the project board. In terms of the budgeted 200,000, how much have you used? How much is still in the coffers? And also, are you likely going to remain on track in terms of cost? So that's the tolerance that I'm talking about. You also need to assess in terms of time, because there's a cumulative delay that is going to affect the whole project by each and every stage. So in your stage, you want to make sure there are no delays which are going to affect the future stages of the project. So it's also very important that you highlight all those specific tolerances. It could be a tolerance in terms of scope, okay? You wanted to deliver 5 items in that specific stage. Probably you've only managed to deliver 4 of them. 1 is still outstanding. You also need to highlight, of course, giving the reasons. Then the next section, which is also very important, you also need to highlight the key issues and also the key risks that you have identified in that particular stage. It's also important for you to notify the project board on all those particular items. Then, the last but not least is the lessons report. You also need to highlight major lessons that you have picked from that particular stage. Then, once all these are all highlighted, on your highlight report, remember we are looking at an example where the stage is 3 months, our highlight report is after 4 weeks. So you also need to highlight the next activities from that checkpoint, okay? What do I mean by checkpoint? 1 month or 4 weeks, you are reporting. So from 4 weeks to 3 months, what else is going to happen? Or for the next month, what else is going to happen? You also need to highlight in terms of the work package. You also need to highlight in terms of the planned work packages. You also need to highlight in terms of planned deliverables or even products. You might also need to highlight in terms of team structure. Is it going to be the same team or there's going to be a difference? Or you might also want to highlight in terms of benefits. Are there any benefits that you're going to realize in the next phase, and so on and so forth? That is very, very important when you're a project manager and you're managing a stage. So, in most cases, you'll find that a stage might have so many changes that might be requested by either the specialist team or anyone or any stakeholder that is interested in the project. So in your highlight report, assuming you have picked 1 or 2 requests for change, you also need to highlight the changes that were requested. You also need to highlight their impact. Were there any impact? If there was an impact, you also need to highlight if there were corrective measures or actions that you have taken. You also need to highlight them in the highlight report. That is very, very important. Don't leave out any request for changes that you have experienced throughout the stage of that project. If you want me to create additional videos based on what we have covered in this video, or maybe there's a specific concept which is not very clear to you, feel free to reach out to me, or you can let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.